Just wanted to do a quick video following on from our location report, which, depending on when you're watching this, may not quite have gone up yet, on the new Hocus Focus magazine programme with Sarah Mondiani and Thomas Sheridan, which is available on both of their channels on Sunday evenings. So we're very excited to be on that. Now we do a report from our holiday in Norway, where we were out. We were very lucky enough to see the Northern Lights. Now, we mentioned, as Liz was saying, when we were looking at Northern Lights, the incredible undulating shapes of the lights. And Liz commented how that would maybe be the origin of early myths about dragons. And obviously that's something that pervades, cultures all over the world. Dragons, also serpents as well, mythical beasts. It's something in mythology that obviously goes around the planet. And I just wanted to do it. It made me think of something I'd already read previously, which took my notice. Some people that are purveyors of the electric universe theory, which is a different explanation from the standard as to what constitutes the universe, really. And they talk about the whole of cosmology being, if you like, a giant electric circuit, and whereas conventional science just talks about gravity being the dominating force that controls the movement of the planets, relationship of the planets, etc., the heavenly bodies, shall we say. The electric universe talks about electricity and magnetism being these opposing forces that keep everything in motion, and that space isn't just an empty void between the planets, but there's charged particles that fill all of space. What they use the term, an ancient term, plasma, and that is everywhere, and it's electrically conductive, and it links everything up. The sun is plasma, stars are plasma, galaxies are plasma. The filaments are magnetised and radiating matter between stars and between galaxies are plasma. The isolated islands we once imagined in space do not exist. A web of electromagnetism connects planets, moons, stars and galaxies. And the movement of charged particles is an electric current. These currents give rise to pervasive magnetic fields and to high energy electrical events. They power exploding stars and erupt as intensely energetic jets from galactic cores. I'm quoting this from a website with loads of interesting information about the electric universe, articles, links to videos, which is thunderbolts.info. And there's a quote here on there from Mel Aitchison, contributing editor of on this Thunderbolt site. Lightning is electric, like a welding arc. The northern lights are electric, like a neon sign. A sunny day is electric. We work and play in an electric field. We don't think about it because we're used to thinking only gravity is there. Space probes find electric features in comets, planets, stars and galaxies. X-ray and radio telescopes find electric features connecting stars and galaxies. The electric universe is a way to begin thinking about all that electricity in the cosmos. And just as an aside, as with so many things, I looked at Aurora Borealis, the proper name, shall we say, for the Northern Lights, and I noticed that the etymology of the word Aurora is derived from the name of the Roman goddess of the dawn, Aurora, who travelled from east to west announcing the coming of the sun. Ancient Greek poets used the corresponding name Eos, metaphorically to refer to dawn, often mentioning its play of colours across the otherwise dark sky. The words Borealis and Australis are derived from the names of the ancient gods of the north wind, Boreas, and the south wind, Auster. So, as with so much, like the constellations, so much of and obviously the planets, planetary bodies, they're named after legends, myths, and this connection with the sky, with the universe, is intrinsically linked with our myths and legends. Going on from this, particularly as we mentioned about dragons, these contributors to the Thunderbolts info, one in particular has written a number of articles and done videos, Andrew Hall, and he posited that the origin of the worldwide myth of dragons is actually fierce electrical storms that resulted from enormous electrical discharges from underseas or ground. And they talked about how these happened around the tectonic plates, where you've got these giant plates on the earth, and we know you have plates like the one around California, the San Andreas Fault, and these act as sort of, I'm not very technical, so I won't be able to explain it as well as they do, but obviously I'm going to have to quote a few things word for word, but they talk about it like a capacitor as a man-made electrical circuit would be created. Capacitor builds charge and a voltage across it, and they're talking about how this charge would sort of leap across where the join is between these plates. They were saying how these massive discharge events from inside the earth, like a short circuit but on a enormous scale around the continental plates, generated by ground currents beneath the plate boundaries. This discharge reaching for the other side of the plate would make an incredible display of like a huge electrical storm. It would draw lightning from plasma clouds above it, and there'll be a following storm system of winds, whirlwinds, cyclones, and that would also create shock waves in the ground. There would be obviously dust, huge clouds of dust, and they have posited that features we now see in the landscape, like the huge valleys and fault lines, these things like the Grand Canyon, if you like, all these huge valleys which are rifts in the crust of the earth, I suppose, they would have been created by such a giant electrical charge, and that our ancient ancestors, having seen that, seeing this enormous body moving across the earth or across water, they would, that's what would be perceived as what we now class as a dragon. Reading as well from another article on the Daily Plasma.blog, and it's talking about how these electrical charges would follow water. We've talked before about water on this channel and the importance of that. So that water has this relationship with electricity, it conducts electricity, so these things would have followed water, but it wouldn't necessarily have to be surface water, it could be water that's underground. And just a sort of quote here, when it says the storm that drew forth the Colorado, they're talking about whether one of these valleys was created in Colorado. The storm that drew forth the Colorado, the storm over the Colorado Plateau, was laying down layer upon layer of dry sediments, burying the lake's inland seas and their drainage. The dragon burrowed into the ground beneath these dry deposits and followed the water like a tree root. All along its jagged path, on either side, the land was pummeled. A dense magnetic field surrounded the current as it pulsed and sparked, and this drew lightning from the raging plasma clouds above, inducing a following storm system of winds, whirlwinds and mesocyclones that conflicted with the ambient winds, creating shock waves all around. On the ground, whirlwinds at the maw of the beast sucked tons of billowing dust to wrap around the plasma at the core of the ark, filling its body within the confines of a magnetic sheath. It formed a lion's mane or feathered appearance at its head as it drew in streamers of dust. The ark advanced in explosive staccato bangs, jumping from node to node, connecting dots across the landscape. But heavy ionic matter moved more slowly, being either pulled with or drawn against the current, as dictated by charge polarity. These horizontal whirlwinds might have looked like ultra-high-speed trains racing across the land. It likely wore an inner vest of elemental conductors and molten silica around a superheated plasma core, an outer coat of ragged dust drawn to its maw as it advanced, wrapped tight to its body by ferrous material caught in the magnetic field. Shockwaves patterned this cloak into diamond-shaped scales that pulsed with light and X-rays. It spit lightning and flames in 70-mile arcs, while shockwaves boomed from its flanks. Sounds just like a dragon. But why take my word for it? Listen to an eyewitness account. And it quotes from the Bible, Job 41 verses 12 to 21. I will not conceal his limbs, his mighty power, or his graceful proportions. Who can remove his outer coat? Who can approach him with a double bridle? Who can open the doors of his face with his terrible teeth all around? His rows of scales are his pride, shut up tightly as with a seal. One is so near another that no air can come between them. They are joined one to another, they stick together and cannot be parted. His sneezings flash forth light, and his eyes are like the eyelids of the morning. Out of his mouth go burning lights, sparks of fire shoot out, smoke goes out of his nostrils, as from a boiling pot and burning rushes. His breath kindles coals, and a flame goes out of his mouth. Verses 30 to 34. His undersides are like sharp potsherds. He spreads pointed marks in the mire. He makes the deep boil like a pot. He makes the sea like a pot of ointment. He leaves a shining wake behind him. One would think the deep had white hair. On earth there is nothing like him which is made without fear. He beholds every high thing. He is king over all the children of pride. So it just struck me, remembering that writing, it does fascinate me about the electric universe idea, and there's lots of articles on these websites which tie in as well with how we've been talking about Jung and the idea of these archetypes around myths and legends that are shared throughout the world. So this is giving another perspective really about a shared experience of the ancient peoples who will have maybe experienced what they're describing as scientific phenomena, if you like, that's just happened, interactions from the earth and this electricity that's all around us, and the connections also with the sky, with what's in the heavens above, and of course the Northern Lights is a very striking image that we still have now today, it comes from energy, electricity from the sun, and its interaction with the atmosphere of the earth, creating these images. I originally started looking at that when I was going to do a piece about the most recent Stranger Things series, because an interesting, I don't think so much maybe in the last series, but previous series, they've had dragon-like monsters in the Stranger Things. I forget what they called them, the names they gave them, but they had dragon-like monsters there, But in this most recent one, there's this upside down sort of alternative universe, if you like, and some of the characters were in that alternate world at the same time as those in this world, and the way that they communicate with each other was through electricity. They were turning off and on lights, like in a sort of creating a Morse code thing, and that electrical change was seen on both worlds, so that was a way of communicating. So that was making me think as well of the work of our friend Nick Hayes in Quest for the Invisibles, and how he's talked about, or he's studied with infrared and ultraviolet photography, how different entities basically could be seen that's not viewable from the naked eye. So to my way of thinking, there's just this plasma, for want of a better word, that's the void that we think is just empty space, whether it's just air on the world or the space above us. There is actually so much within that we can't perceive normally. So maybe within that there is these alternate worlds, alternate universes, and so we have another connection there with, if you like, with the mythological, the magical. It is all around us, and it's all connecting up to us. So I think that's just a really interesting thing that's sort of developing on from the experience we had in Norway.